Hi, this is David. Today I'm going to work with the last 10 questions in our practice midterm 1. Since most of you have attended the review session, so I think you probably know the answer of a lot of these already. So I just go faster, and most of the 10 questions are actually concept questions. Alright, so question 1, federal funds. Federal funds, there's one trick you need to remember, that federal fund has nothing to do with any federal agency. Okay, so basically it is loans made by banks to each other. Okay, so that's B. Alright, so later in this semester we're going to learn that all the banks are required to keep some of their deposit as required reserve. Okay, so they basically saved all their extra money in their regional Federal Reserve Bank. Okay, so those money are called federal funds. Okay, so you can make loans with this federal funds, but to other commercial banks, but all of them are pretty short term, like overnight. Yeah, so you just need to remember federal funds has nothing to do with federal agencies. Okay, so as you see, federal government, that's not right. Federal Reserve, not right. Federal Reserve, not right. Okay. Question 32. Which of the following would not be considered a characteristic of money? We repeat it for many times, and there are three functions of money. It's a store value, unit of account, and it's a payment medium of payment, right? Medium of change. Okay, so especially in modern society, we no longer use money that has intrinsic value. Okay, so this is the right answer. Question 33. Money eliminates the need for what? Right answer is A search for a double coincident of wants. So this is talking about with fiat money, you don't have to trade good with another good, okay? Which means you have to find a people who have the good you want and also want your good. So that is going to save you the trouble of that. You just need to sell your good with money, get the money, and buy buy other good with those money. All right. Question 34. The primary use of derivative contracts is a shift of risk. Okay. So let's see. To add profit, an investor represents through information to shift the risk among investors. That is right. Okay. So most of the derivative contracts is to shift the risk. Okay, so if you think one thing is risky, then you can probably get some kind of derivative contracts with other investors who is willing to bear the risk for some return. Okay, so that's what derivative contracts mean to do. 35. Pretty similar, a derivative instrument is what? So remember, all derivative instrument is relying on the existence of the underlying instrument. Okay, so let me read all the options. Is a low-risk financial instrument? Most of them are probably not. And used by highly risk-averse savers? No, not really. Okay. So it could be in a really high risk, okay, but the return needs to be high, as we talk about the relationship between return and risk. B, should be purchased prior to purchasing the underlying security. It's not necessarily true. You can buy derivatives by itself. And comes into existence after the underlying instrument is in default. It's not necessarily to be in default, right? So for example, the reinsurance we talked about in the lab, it doesn't default or not. It's just like what D says, gets its value and pay off from the performance of the underlying instrument. Okay, so it just depends on the underlying instrument. 36. A lender who makes a 1,000 loan for 1 year and earns interest in the amount of 75 earns what nominal interest rate and what real interest rate inflation is if the inflation is 2%. Okay, so it contains two parts, but both are pretty easy, right? So if you're making $75, then your return is simply $75 over your original payment, 1,000. That's 7.5%. And we know that the real interest rate is the nominal interest rate minus inflation, so it's going to be 7.5% minus 2%, which gives you 5.5%. So the right answer is going to be C. 37. Decrease in expected inflation for any given interest rate will cause what? Okay, so and since it is talking about the bond market, and as we know, inflation is special, so it's going to shift both supply and demand curve. However, it's going to have the same effect, right? So when inflation rate is expected to be lower, the real interest rate will be higher, like over here. So when real interest rate is high, more people is willing to buy bond and less supplier will supply bond. So price is going to increase and the interest rate will drop. Okay, so that's D. For 38, the bond rating of a security reflects what? So basically it reflects the risk, the default risk. So which is B, the likelihood the lender borrower will be repaid by the borrower issuers. Okay. 39, investors usually obtain bond ratings from where? In the United States, it is from private bond rating agencies like Moody's or Standard Poor's. In other countries, it could have official ratings, I think. And the last question is saying, well, if the expected return on bonds fall relative to other assets, then we know the demand curve is going to shift to the left. So it's going to B is the right answer. Bond demand curve will shift to D2. Okay, and that completes today.